How we doing, everybody? UFC Thoughts here, and today I'm going to be going over my picks and breakdown for every fight on UFC Mexico City, Moreno vs. Erceg on March 29th, 2025. Timestamps in the comments below. Let's get right into it with the first fight of 13. We start with MarQuel Mederos versus Austin Hubbard. Tricky, I'm going to go with Austin Hubbard. I really think elevation's going to play a huge factor in this fight, including the fact that it is a short notice addition to UFC Mexico City. Austin Hubbard trains at Team Elevation. MarQuel Mederos does train out of Colorado, but he trains out of Factory X, which is not the same team. MarQuel's one of those guys from the Contender Series who has a blistering knockout, and then has a shitty debut. His debut against Landon Quinones was a decent fight, but I thought that you could have argued that he lost. It's very close. And I don't really rate Landon Quinones all that much. MarQuel Mederos does a lot of good work in the pocket. His boxing up close, in close range, is very good. He hits decently hard, 6 KOs of 9 wins. But besides that, he doesn't really do anything. He'll throw shitty telegraphed leg kicks outside. Austin Hubbard presses the fight forward. That's something MarQuel Mederos will try to do, is press forward, but he's going to be fighting a better guy at it, and Austin Hubbard, who has better pressure, in my opinion. He doesn't go all the way in like MarQuel. He has a very moderate pressure where it builds up over time, where you're just somewhat behind the black line and you're just trying to press forward and you run into mistakes. Austin Hubbard, his straight shots will be working a wonder in this fight. MarQuel Mederos has his hands decently low. They're like by his chest when he's advancing. And I think Austin will kick to the body, work the body well, throw straight shots, try and implement his grappling, get that in MarQuel's head, be able to land his shots even better. Austin Hubbard's coming off 2 really good, not good, but close competitive fights with Michael Figlak, which he won, and Alexander Hernandez, which was very close. And I rate those 2 guys a bit more than MarQuel Mederos. MarQuel's just kind of a weird guy. I don't know, he's got awkwardly short arms. And Austin Hubbard, he's got a lot of experience. He's going to be bigger than MarQuel Mederos. And at elevation, short notice, I would favor Austin Hubbard in this matchup due to him training at elevation. I don't know if MarQuel Mederos is going to be that acclimated to the elevation. So I'll go Austin Hubbard, unanimous decision. We move to Jamall Emmers versus Gabriel Miranda. I'm going to go with Jamall Emmers by first or second round KO. Gabriel Miranda is a submission threat, like a submission specialist through and through. He has 16 wins by submission. He has like 1 win by KO. I forget who it is. It's like early in his career. Dude, Jamall Emmers has been in there with some very good guys. Beat Corey Sandhagen in the regional scene, beat him in a decision, has a close fight with Jack Jenkins and Giga Chikadze. Could have argued both of those fights went to him. He's coming off a bad performance against Nate Landwehr, dropped him and hurt him bad early and then gets chinned himself. Prior to that, he knocked out Dennis Bajuka. Jamall Emmers' boxing is very good. Very good boxing by Jamall Emmers. Goes to the body decently well. And Gabriel Miranda, even though he's big for featherweight because he's usually a lightweight, but he moved down in the Shane Young fight, he's not great on the feet. He will literally throw a left hook and drop his right hand to gain momentum to do so, and I don't like that. I don't like him dropping his hands against a slick boxer in Jamall Emmers. And it's not like Gabriel Miranda has like the youth advantage that most guys do have against Jamall Emmers. He's basically the same age, and he's a submission specialist against a guy like Jamall Emmers who has a 91% takedown defense. We've seen him against pure wrestlers before in the Kusain Askabov guy. I forget his last name. It's not Askabov. The guy who got like charged with like stealing in his home country. I think he's Tajikistani. But Gabriel Miranda's not good on the feet. He's going to get caught eventually. Jamall Emmers is a sniper at range. He's got very long arms for featherweight. And he's been in there with better guys. Gabriel Miranda's getting out-maraudered by Benoit Saint-Denis and Morgan Cháirez. And Jamall Emmers is not going to entertain the ground game. He might, but in his best interest, he shouldn't. He's a good game planner. He should know that the feet is where he's going to have his most success at. So, yeah, I think Jamall Emmers by first or second round KO. Gabriel Miranda isn't really that good. We move to Rafa Garcia versus Vinc Pichel. I'm going to go with Rafa Garcia. Both pretty inactive, honestly. It's at Mexico City, which almost makes me want to go with Vinc Pichel because he is a tough out. But I think that Rafa Garcia, he's going to be 12 years younger than Vinc, and he's 30, so that goes to show how old Vinc is. He's so inactive. I honestly wasn't a fan of the physical look of Vinc Pichel last time out against Ismael Bonfim. Rafa has also had kind of a weird career. Went to war with, fucking Clay Guida, and then his next fight he gets beat the fuck up by Grant Dawson. But I think Rafa Garcia is a bit more... He's got some dog in him, and you need that against Vinc Pichel. You got to be a bit of a dog to kind of stand in front of him. And Vinc Pichel, he's 42. It's got to play a part in this, right? And he also has a 25% takedown defense. Not a huge fan of that. Rafa Garcia is one of these muscular ball builds at lightweight. And Vinc Pichel has struggled with those in the past quite a bit. And Rafa Garcia, he's been in there with some very tough guys. Nasrat Haqparast, Grant Dawson, Clay Guida is a tough out for some fellas. Mahashate is a big guy for lightweight. He was able to kind of drag him around for a little bit. Rafa Garcia on the feet. Vinc's going to be trying to chew up the outside low kick. Trying to chew it up. Throw a straight shot every, 12 seconds. Just try and keep him at bay. Try and impose his will. I think Rafa Garcia on the feet. Very tight, together boxer type thing. He has short arms, so he's kind of just like, you can't see me because I don't have a face cam, but he's like, you know what I mean? So he'll try and get in the pocket and work against Vinc, try and push him against the fence, try and find takedowns. I think Rafa wins by decision. Vinc Pichel is a tough out, so I'll go Rafa Garcia by decision. We move to Lupita Godinez versus Julia Polastri. I'm going to go with Lupita Godinez. I just think she's a better fighter than Julia Polastri. Lupita Godinez last two fights have been against Verna Jandiroba and Mackenzie Dern, and those are both very close fights that were I think both of them were split decisions, possibly. Maybe one of them was unanimous. But she's able to grapple with those gals and be able to take them down and be able to survive certain positions on the ground with them. And Julia Polastri is not like a crazy submission threat. She's more of like a bully on the feet. But I like that look from Lupita Godinez, that she is very competitive with these gals. Amanda Lemos can't survive on the ground with, fucking Verna Jandiroba. Lupita Godinez had her on her back for 3 minutes and survived. And on the feet, Lupita Godinez's boxing has been improving rapidly. We saw that in a lot of her fights. The Elise Reed fight really comes to mind, her just beating the shit out of her. Her boxing looked pretty good against Mackenzie Dern. That was a close fight where she kind of just didn't pull the trigger enough. Julia Polastri is going to split decisions with Corey McKenna and getting outstruck definitively by Josephine Knudsen, who's in the GFL now. I have to take this shit in mind. And Julia Polastri really likes to implement clinch and wrestle themes into her fights. She implemented the clinch a lot against Corey McKenna, but she didn't really try to take her down because Corey McKenna's like a jiu-jitsu type of specialist gal. She's not going to be able to do that. She's not going to be able to bully Lupita Godinez, who has been in there with very good opponents. And Julia Polastri, she's going to have a speed disadvantage in this one as well. Lupita Godinez is pretty fast, so I think Lupita's boxing combinations on the feet, maybe mixing in a takedown here and there, are going to really benefit her in this fight against Julia Polastri. Again, I just don't think she's that good. We move to Christian Rodríguez versus Melquizael Costa. Dude, I'm going Melk. Bro, this one's tricky. It shouldn't be tricky because I think the pick that most people are going to go with is Christian Rodríguez. This just seems to me like a fight he is going to lose. For one, it is something in Christian Rodríguez's nature that he does just struggle with taller opponents. He just does. You look at the Jonathan Pierce performance. You look at the Julian Erosa performance. Right? He struggles when people are taller than him, and people bring up all the undefeated fighters that he's beaten. Isaac Dogarian, I thought that was a robbery, honestly. Austin Bashi, good win. Very good win for Christian Rodríguez. Looked very improved. Cameron Saimon and Raul Rosas Jr. missed weight for both of those, and those are both very young, new prospects. Right? Same with Austin Bashi, to be fair. Austin Bashi is 23. Christian Rodríguez, on the feet, decent shot selection. He does very well when people gas themselves out. That's something that we've noticed in those fights, in the Bulgarian fight, in all the undefeated fighters. They all gas out trying to take him down, because that's something we saw Raul Rosas Jr., a 19-year-old, have a lot of success with, was just spamming takedowns and getting him down in the first round, and then he gassed out. Cameron Saimon didn't really go for that. He tried to strike with him, but he's a small bantamweight. Christian Rodríguez is now a featherweight. Melquizael Costa can kick outside from range, something Julian Erosa and Jonathan Pierce were able to do. He's not chinny. He's able to control bigger guys for long periods of time. Look back at that first round in the Steve Garcia fight. He controlled him for almost the entire round against the fence. He can create scrambles on the ground. Christian Rodríguez will try and get it to the ground in moments, I think. If Melquizael Costa is able to blast kicks on the outside, maybe create grappling scenarios of his own, I think he subs Christian Rodríguez. I think he's going to find a moment of success where Christian Rodríguez makes a mistake. When Christian Rodríguez is on top of people, he seemingly does just make mistakes. And I think Melquizael Costa is able to use submission threats as a way to reverse positions or just get submissions. We saw that in the Andre Philly fight. We saw that in the Shia Leonard and Becky fight. Uses a Kimura to sweep to get back to his feet. Uses a guillotine to just finish the fight. And Christian Rodríguez, we've seen him get subbed before by Julian Erosa, who is a good submission threat, but Melquizael Costa also has that in his back pocket. I'm going to go Melquizael Costa by first or second round submission. This is probably going to backfire. I don't really give a shit. Fuck Christian Rodríguez. We move to José Daniel Medina versus Ateba Gautier. I'm going to go with Ateba Gautier. Now, this could end up being a trap fight. I hope it doesn't, but José Daniel Medina, if many of you remember, is just a kind of flabby Bolivian man who can take a lot of punishment and who hasn't won a fight under the UFC banner yet, not even on the Contender Series. Excuse me. He just gets beat up and then has a bit of a rally, starts hitting on people when they're tired, and then gets taken down or hurt again. Ateba Gautier, very young, very big for middleweight as well, 6'4" with an 81-inch reach. Kind of reminds me of Zachary Reese in a way, and that guy already beat José Daniel Medina size-wise, so I think Ateba Gautier, physical specimen, very strong on the feet, uppercuts galore, just very powerful. Honestly, a bit technical in a way, a bit more technical than I would be expecting of a guy with, his stature. José Daniel Medina, he might try to get this fight to the ground. I think Ateba Gautier's takedown defense in the fight against what was the Japanese dude's name? It was like Naito or whatever. He stuffed the first couple, then got taken down and held down for the rest of the round. And then after that, he started spamming uppercuts whenever he would start coming in. He was doing that at the start of the fight. So Ateba Gautier, what that shows me is he's a good game planner. His team builds good game plans for him. I think he'll build a good game plan against José Daniel Medina, work the body. He gets hurt to the body a lot. Work the body, then go upstairs, might be able to finish him. I don't think Ateba finishes him. I think it'll be one of those fights where he wins the first two, the third round gets a little sketchy. So I'll go Ateba Gautier, 29-28 unanimous decision. We move to the featured prelim, Édgar Cháirez versus CJ Vergara. I'm going to go with Édgar Cháirez by possibly finish. CJ Vergara is just mid. He's mid everywhere. I don't really think he's all that good. Édgar Cháirez, his record doesn't show how good he is. For example, Édgar Cháirez, both of his losses under Joshua Van and Tatsuro Taira, those are two really solid losses to have, considering the fact he found a lot of success in both of those. For one, he knocked down Tatsuro Taira with a step-in elbow that dropped him pretty bad. I remember that because I was at UFC 290. And that was his debut. And then he has the saga with fucking Daniel Lacerda. And then he fights Joshua Van and Sphere. Tunes him up. Listen, I love Joshua Van. He was getting tuned up in that first round by Édgar Cháirez and a little bit of the second until he realized, I just need to stand in front of this guy and enter the pocket. CJ Vergara doesn't do that. He doesn't really make adjustments. He just stays the same the entire fight, expecting it to work. I expect Édgar Cháirez's outside low kick to pay dividends against CJ Vergara, a guy who doesn't really check low kicks, he just lifts his leg. And Édgar's going to be quicker than him. And I don't really think CJ Vergara is all that good. That's about it. I don't rate him at all. I just don't really think he does everything decent. I think Édgar Cháirez is a better striker, better boxer. He can kick better, especially low. Maybe bring it up high. We've seen CJ Vergara lose quite a bit in his last couple of fights. Of course, he's 3-4. CJ, the performance against Ramazan Tamirov. I love Ramazan Tamirov. And he's very fast. Édgar Cháirez is more long and rangy than Ramazan Tamirov is. He's going to be able to work the jab, work the straight punches, ding his head from range. CJ Vergara is going to have a speed disadvantage in this one. He's just going to be swinging at ghosts, and Édgar Cháirez, is just going to win. So I'll go Édgar Cháirez. We move to the start of the main card. Luis Ronaldo Rodríguez versus Kevin Borjas. I'm going to go with Lazy Boy on this one, Luis Ronaldo Rodríguez. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought that Ode Osborne could have gotten the decision win over him, but I still think he is a bad matchup for Kevin Borjas. Kevin Borjas, weird run in the UFC so far, debuted against Joshua Van at 295, ended up knocking him down in the first round, and then just fading really fast in that fight as the fight went on. Got bulldozed by Alessandro Costa. Luis Ronaldo Rodríguez, in my opinion, isn't all that great. I don't think he's going to become a huge contender in this division, but I do believe he beats Kevin Borjas. He can get chinned. We know that now. Ode Osborne basically chinned him in their fight. Kevin Borjas usually goes with straight shots. I like Lazy Boy's leg kicks in this fight. That was something Alessandro Costa had a lot of success with. Also, Kevin will sometimes just, if you press him far enough, he will just fade and start throwing wild hooks from his hips, and that can lead to takedown opportunities for Luis Ronaldo Rodríguez, possibly create a great scramble. I really don't think Kevin Borjas, outside of a first-round KO, can win this. I think he'll fade at elevation, and Luis Ronaldo Rodríguez will either find a ground-and-pound TKO or find a sub in round 2 or 3. I think that elevation will play a huge factor in this fight, and I think Luis Ronaldo Rodríguez will end up on top. And even if it goes to a decision, who do you think they want to win? We move to David Martínez versus Saimon Oliveira. I'm going to go with David Martínez on this one. Pretty easy fight, in my opinion, to predict. Two very small featherweight bodies in Martínez and Oliveira. But Saimon Oliveira fades pretty quickly against competition like Tony Gravely and Daniel Marcos. And being finished by Daniel Marcos is aging worse and worse as time goes on. And I like David Martínez's varied attack. He doesn't just headhunt. He actually mixes it up pretty well, which is going to help him a shit ton against Saimon Oliveira. And David Martínez has been in 5-round fights before. Saimon Oliveira gasses pretty quick. If you put it on him, he will spam something in a fight. It depends on what it is. He will shoot wayward takedown attempts. David Martínez showed good takedown defense against Xavier Franklin on the Contender Series, a kind of stockier build fella. And Saimon, I think, is no offense, I think he's a bit of a bitch, honestly. He kind of runs away if you start to pressure him, and David Martínez's shot selection's pretty decent for featherweight. Goes to the head decently well, he chews up the lead leg, will go to the body here and there. I think he sees some tape on Saimon Oliveira really fading if you go to his body. That's something Daniel Marcos really had a lot of success with. And Saimon Oliveira, inactive as fuck. His UFC career so far has been UFC 270 in January of 2022, UFC 283 in January of 2023, and now March of 2025. I can't pick this guy to win. He fades, and it's at elevation. First fight in over 2 years. I can't pick you. David Martínez looked decent on the Contender Series. I gotta go with him. We move to Raul Rosas Jr. versus Vince Morales. I'm gonna go with Vince Morales. Listen, I think there's gonna be an upset in Mexico City. Raul Rosas Jr. striking still doesn't impress me enough. And also, he's going up against a big dude in Vince Morales who's been in there with a lot of good guys at bantamweight. Taylor Lapilus comes to mind. He was able to stand and bang with him in moments. Elijah Smith is decent. All right, he's a prospect. Vinc has been in there with other big wrestlers, very stocky guys like Miles Johns. He defended 11 takedowns off of him. And Raul's going in there with, Richie Lang and Terrence Mitchell and Jay Perrin and Ricky Tercios, these very below-average guys. And Vince Morales is a dog, and he can grapple very well. He can grapple. He's very well-rounded when it comes to that. He can create scrambles of his own. And I was not very impressed with Raul Rosas Jr. against Richie Lang. When he couldn't get the takedown, he was getting tagged on the feet every other, 10 seconds. He was getting tagged and desperately throwing shots that had no chance of landing and then trying to just keep Richie Lang off of him. And I do think it does need to be noted that Raul Rosas Jr. last time out in Mexico City did have altitude sickness and had to pull out against Ricky Tercios the first time. I do believe that needs to be mentioned. Vince Morales, always pushing a pace, always grinding on people, does Vince Morales. And Raul Rosas Jr., his cardio has improved since Christian Rodriguez, but I don't know if it's improved enough for me to confidently pick him at Mexico City at elevation, because this fight was added somewhat short notice as well to Mexico City. And, Vince Morales did fight a couple weeks ago. He did. He fought it on February 15th against Elijah Smith. He's able to scramble with other big bantamweights and able to create great opportunities. He's able to strike with Taylor Lapilus for 3 rounds and create ground opportunities of his own in that fight. And, he's only been submitted twice in his career. The other guys that Raul Rosas Jr. is fighting, they get subbed quite a bit. Jay Perrin sucks. All right, Richie Lang has 3 submission losses, okay? Vince only has 2. I really think that elevation can play a part in this, and I think Vince Morales might be able to defend the takedowns decently well against Raul Rosas Jr., and he's a tough out. And I don't know, Raul Rosas Jr. struggled a little bit against another tough out in Richie Lang. I think Vince Morales is a bit better. He's more well-rounded than Richie Lang is. So, I'll go Vince Morales. I think he might be able to find a submission late in this fight or get a decision. I think he'll do just a bit more as the fight goes on. We'll see what happens, but I have a bad feeling about this one. We move to Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. I'm going to go Joe Pyfer by finish. I don't know whether he can TKO Kelvin or submit him. Either way, I think he wins. I think Joe Pyfer's too big for Kelvin. And, Kelvin Gastelum has always struggled with size disparity, or disadvantages rather, in his entire career. And he is just fat. That is something, this isn't his most recent photo. I don't care for this fight week. I need to get this video out early. He's just fat. He looks exactly the same. And I'm rewatching the fucking Daniel Rodríguez fight. Dude, it's close. He landed harder shots, but dude, Daniel Rodríguez was landing on him pretty consistently, dude. I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't think Daniel Rodríguez is all that. He's having close striking competitions with fucking Alex Moreno, for fuck's sake. Joe Pyfer's too big, too powerful, and too strong. Dude, Kelvin had to mix in takedowns to beat Daniel Rodríguez. He had to do that. Joe Pyfer is strong, has a great blast double leg. That's something we've seen Kelvin Gastelum struggle with before. He's also just he hits so hard. He's chinning other guys that we don't see get chinned a lot. He might have broken Marc-Andre Barrios' face. He might have ruined his chin forever. And, he's able to get the first 2 rounds off of Jack Hermanson. I like that, even though he faded in that fight, and that could play a detriment at elevation, of course, against Joe Pyfer. He won the first 2 rounds against fucking Jack Hermanson. I love seeing that. Jack Hermanson's really fucking good. And Joe Pyfer, he's winning those first 2 rounds. He's knocking out Gerald Mearshart in the first round, knocking out Omar Amadevsky in the first round. He's chinning Marc-Andre Barrios. He hits too hard, and Kelvin Gastelum gets hit way too much for him to have too much success on the feet, and also his takedown defense isn't what I'd like it to be. I think this is a very easy fight to predict. I think Joe Pyfer can, even Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, he evades the big shots and gets big old takedowns and finds a triangle choke on him. Kelvin Gastelum is just fat. He is fat. And Joe Pyfer's too big. He's too big. He's too good. Like, he's actually decent for a fighter. I think he wins this easily. So I'll go Joe Pyfer by finish. We move to the co-main event. Manuel Torres versus Drew Dober. I gotta pick Manuel Torres by first round KO. I have to. Drew has taken so much damage in his career for me not to pick Manuel Torres, who has a ton of finishing potential to finish Drew Dober in the first round. Drew Dober, I love him. We all love Drew Dober, and he can win this. Manuel Torres is somewhat chinny. I have noticed that about him. Got hurt by Chris Duncan, got hurt by Nicolas Mota, of course got put away by Ignacio Bahamondes. But man, he finishes almost everybody that he fights. He has great finishing potential in his career. And he just puts everyone away, besides Ignacio. And he was having success against Ignacio Bahamondes. I rewatched that fight. He was having success until he got dropped and then chinned once more. Drew Dober doesn't fade away, clip people. He doesn't counter-strike like that. He doesn't fade away right straight. He's very in your face first, rear hooks, just spamming hooks to the body and head, rear uppercut. He's just going at you. He's going to run into something that Manuel Torres throws, and it's going to hurt him. Because Drew Dober has increasingly been hurt more and more in his career as time has gone on. That's just how time works. Matt Frevola chins him in the first round. That's not even a good look anymore. Dude, Matt Frevola kind of sucks. Like, has he won a fight since beating Drew Dober? I don't think so. Dude, I don't think he's won a single fight since. No, he hasn't. I don't think so, because the fight after that was Benoit Saint-Denis. Yeah, that's not a great loss. And then Joan Silva, that's a great, you can't really do much. Joan Silva is the man. And Drew was having some success, but he took a lot of damage in that fight. And he's coming back, 7 months later? Not 7 months, probably like 9-ish, against Manuel Torres, who hits hard as fuck, who is long and rangy for the division. I think Manuel Torres is going to put him away. And something Manuel Torres will do is he will catch people running in with either a right straight or, like he did against Nicolas Mota, just a fucking elbow that'll put you away like that. I think that he's going to catch Drew Dober coming in and just put him away so hard. It's either Drew knocks him out or Manuel knocks him out. It's a killer-be-killed matchup. I favor Manuel Torres to put away Drew Dober in spectacular fashion, just because that's how their styles clash together. And even Drew Dober's wins aren't even aging all that well. Ricky Glenn fucking sucks. He does suck. Bobby Green is chinny as fuck, and it doesn't help that Bobby Green was tuning you the fuck up, dude. He was tuning Drew up. I picked Bobby Green. I was like, damn, he's cooking Drew, and then got chinned. It does need to be mentioned, Manuel Torres isn't black either. That does need to be mentioned. He is a white man. He passes off as white. Drew Dober's actually the darker one in this matchup, so I think that also does play a part in it. He's not bad like Ricky Glenn. I think Manuel Torres wins by KO because he's not African American, and he'll catch Drew. He will. It's either Drew catches him or Manuel catches him. I favor Manuel catching Drew first. We move to the main event: Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg. I'm gonna go Brandon Moreno. I think he might be able to finish Steve in this one. I think this is a terrible matchup for Steve at this point, especially considering he's lost 2 in a row. Moreno is one of the only guys in the entire division that can actually match Steve Erceg in the height and boxing department, which is where Steve Erceg has a lot of success. Steve Erceg, of course, loves a jab, loves his ones and twos, outside low kick, just managing distance very well on the outside. But this is going to be a fight where he doesn't have the reach advantage, so he's not going to be able to use his jab as effectively as he was against other shorter flyweights like Kai Kara, like Pantoja, like even Alessandro Costa, right? And Moreno is coming off a performance against Amir Albazi in which he looked probably one of his most fluent and fluid as well in the striking department. And, it sucks to see Steve Erceg go on such a downfall because I love him to death. But this isn't going to be a fight where Steve Erceg's going to be able to catch someone coming in as much as he was. Even against Cháirez, he wasn't having as much success as I thought he would, and then he got caught. It wasn't like, he was winning the entire fight. He landed like a couple solid jabs and then a good outside low kick and had one combination that landed pretty flush. It was mostly Cháirez just blitzing and landing his own jab as well on Steve. And Brandon Moreno has a brilliant left hook, and that's something we've seen Steve Erceg struggle with a shit ton in his career. And he will give up the front foot and allow himself to be backed up in moments, like Pantoja blitzing him, like Cháirez rushing in. Brandon Moreno is so unorthodox to deal with that you look at his fights, you don't know what the fuck's going to come your way. You don't know if it's going to be a jab. You don't know if it's going to be like an upward jab that lands with like the palm somewhat. And this isn't going to be a fight where Steve Erceg has like a criminal grappling advantage either, because that's another thing Steve Erceg does have is the grappling. Brandon Moreno in his last fight looked brilliant in takedown defense. And that's usually where he struggles. And I imagine Brandon Moreno has increased that. And you also have to take into account that this is short notice. This is a short notice appearance for Steve Erceg, who was originally going to be fighting Asu Almabayev March 1st. And then, of course, Royval pulled out against Kopp. They moved Asu up to fight Manel Kopp, and then they gave Erceg this fight. And I don't know if Steve Erceg has the ability to train in elevation in Australia. I don't know if he has those opportunities as much as Brandon Moreno does, who trains out of Mexico, now trains in Las Vegas, but can also move just to Mexico and train in the mountains, like he did against Royval. And against Royval, he still won 2 of the rounds. It was a very competitive fight, and we know how good Royval really is, especially at elevation, where he threw like 800 strikes in 25 minutes, which is nuts. And Moreno was able to keep up with him for as long as he did. And then he has the brilliant performance against Albazi, has a very close fight with Pantoja, closer than Erceg's was, in my opinion. And you guys know how much I love Erceg, and I'm like, yeah, it's a very close fight. I need to rewatch it to really, gather my thoughts on it, but, I do believe Erceg is very good. I do believe his boxing is some of the best in the division, but he does have defensive holes in his game that I believe Brandon Moreno will be able to exploit decently well in this fight. Sadly, he does that one thing where he leaves out his lead hand, kind of backs up with his chin in the air with his right hand kind of close by but not fully covering. If he's not countering, he'll do that, and I think Brandon Moreno can come over the top with a head kick or a left hook or, even the right overhand that he's very well known for. I really believe Erceg might get finished, and it's going to depress me if it happens. So I'll go Brandon Moreno. And it's also short notice at elevation, like I said. I need to preface that as well. So I'll go Brandon Moreno, 3rd round finish. Lock it in. I'm UFC Thoughts. These have been my picks and breakdown for every fight on UFC Mexico City. Moreno vs. Erceg on March 29th, 2025. My confident picks reside with Jamall Emmers, Joe Pyfer, and in the main event, Brandon Moreno. My pre-card rating is a 7 out of 10. Some decent guys on here, some decent fellas to look out for. Of course, Brandon Moreno, Erceg in the main event, Joe Pyfer. Manuel Torres, Drew Dober should be a very fun fight. Ronaldo Rodríguez as well. Yeah, I think it should be fun. Finishing potential in quite a few of these fights. The prelims. Just remember, elevation, people might gas out quicker than you expect them to. So we might be in for some scraps. Maybe not. Maybe everyone looks a bit worse like the last year's Mexico City was. But yeah, I'll see you guys after the fights. Peace.